Circle 7 contains all of the people who were violent in their lives. This circle contains 3 rings. The first ring is for those who are violent against others. The second for those who are violent against themselves. And the final ring contains those violent against God, nature, and art. Circle 7 is located in the lower levels of hell, since according to Dante's ideology, violence is an inexcusable act. It is located below Circle 6, the heretics, and above Circle 8, the frauds.
Dante's attitude towards this has limited understanding for the people condemned to it. In his mind, they all deserve to be held here in eternal punishment for the violence of their crimes. He never takes into account the justification of their actions. In his mind, violence is never justified, even if it is committed in self-defense.
Ring 1 of Circle 7, the circle for those violent against others, contains a river of boiling blood. This punishment is tailored to each sinner as they are submerged in blood up to the level of their crimes. This makes it a fitting punishment, since the sinners spilled blood of others, they are forever submerged in blood. This river is situated among broken rocks. These rocks were shattered when Jesus ascended from hell, which makes it a biblical illusion.
This river is closely guarded by centaurs, which are told to shoot at anyone who attempts to raise himself from the river. The Minotaur also guards this ring, and acts as a representation for the entire circle. The Minotaur is a representation of the circle because it is blind with rage and acts with violence in attacking everything in its path. As Dante said, like the bull that breaks his tether, just as it receives the mortal blow and cannot run, but lunges here and there, so raged the Minotaur.
The Minotaur and centaurs are both allusions to Greek mythology, as these types of monsters can be found in Greek myths as well. This ring contains many other allusions to Greek mythology. Ariadne, the sister of the Minotaur, guided Dante and Virgil through the ring. In Greek mythology, Ariadne is known as the mistress of the labyrinth, and in other stories, as the goddess of Crete. Nessus, another centaur, also originated in Greek myths. As far as people go, Dante only put a few well-known people in this ring. Among these sinners were Alexander the Great, Attila the Hun, and Pyrrhus. Alexander the Great is a well-known political figure who was submerged up to his forehead in boiling blood due to his violence and brutal conquering during his life on Earth. Attila, who was the leader of the Huns, is also placed in this river. The Huns were a violent and militant group, and this life of violence caused Attila to land here. Pyrrhus was an army general who opposed Rome in several devastating battles. Many people lost their lives at the hands of this man, which resulted in his placement in the river of blood.
Ring 2 is set aside for those violence against themselves and their possession. This encompasses people who commit suicide and people who harm themselves or squander their possessions. These people are stuck in the form of trees, which is an ironic punishment since in life they tried so hard to free themselves to their bodies, they are now deprived of human form. These trees are not only eternal traps, they are twisted and tangled around themselves and others and constantly pecked at by harpies. The squanderers are forced to run through the forest and hit the trees while being chased by hounds. This further mutilates them and also punishes the trees in another way. The harpies, who are another reference to Greek myth, are the monster for this ring. These monsters are half woman and half bird, and fly around the forest of twisted souls, pecking freely at the trees. Harpies help to fit the punishment to the crime, as they eternally mimic the pain of those in the forest inflicted upon themselves.
Ring 2, similar to Ring 1, contains many allusions to mythology and religion. The harpies are the most prominent example of an allusion to mythology because they were so prevalent in Greek myths. Unlike the first ring, Ring 2 holds a man who tells Dante his story. This man, named Pierre de la Vigne, tells his life story of being a virtuous and cultured man. He had obtained an education and done well in his life, and not committed any inexcusable sins. However, towards the end of his life, a group of scheming rivals had ruined his reputation, and, in shame, he hanged himself.
Ring 3 of this circle holds many types of sinners. Dante puts those violent against God, the blasphemers, those violent against nature, sodomites and homosexuals, and those violent against art and honesty, the usurers. Usury may seem misplaced in a circle dedicated to punishing violence. However, in Dante's mind, usury, or tricking someone into paying unfairly high prices for things, is violence against art and honesty. Geographically, this ring is very distinct. It is a desert of burning sand, with a constant rain of fire pouring down. Every category of people in this area has a slightly different punishment. The blasphemers are exposed to the most pain, as they are forced to lie flat on the sand while the fire slowly hits them and the sand scalds their back. The sodomites wander around in groups on the sand and are some of the most mobile in this circle. However, they can never leave the desert. The usurers are forced to sit on the burning sands with purses around their necks. Each purse has a crest from a famous Florentine family. This punishment fits their crime well because they were violent against art, so they must now sit and admire art, the crest, for eternity. On top of that, Florence is known for being a city of art and culture, so the Florentine crests were an example of irony. The fiery sand and rain are a symbol as well. The burning sand symbolizes the earth punishing the sinners, and the slow rain of fire represents God punishing the sinners.
Geryon, the monster of fraud, is put into this ring, both as a punishment for those in this ring with him, and because fraud is similar to usury, which will condemn someone to an eternity in this desert. This makes Geryon both a symbol and an illusion, as his sins reflect the sins of the circle, and he was based off of a monster found in Revelations, the final book of the Christian Bible. The mythical king of Spain was also transformed into a monster to be punished in this ring. This king was portrayed as a monster with 3 heads and was put into this category for his life's crimes of usury. In his life, he was said to lure people into his realm and then force them to pay increased prices so he would make a large profit. In this circle, among the Sodomites, Dante encounters his mentor, Brunetto Latini. You can tell that Dante respects him and is surprised by this encounter because Dante dresses him formally. This shows that even in hell, Dante recognizes and appreciates Latini. Also in this ring is a politician from Dante's life, Jacopo Restucci. This man is one of the several political allusions in Circle 7. Among the blasphemers is Capaneus, who Dante says is still blaspheming, even after descending into hell. Dante is appalled by this continuation of talking badly about God. Capaneus is also punished by his own internal violence.
Dante's categorization of people within each ring reveals a lot about his attitudes towards certain categories of sin. In the first ring, we can see that in his mind, violence against others is the lightest type of violence. The next section contains the suicides. Dante shows no pity for this circle, even after being told the story of a virtuous man who killed himself. These people are trapped constantly in their bodies, and they're monsters, the Harpies, are some of the most violent and constantly angry monsters in all of Circle 7. The Harpies pecked regularly at the twisted souls and treated them incredibly harshly. The last ring contains people that Dante views as the worst. The Sodomites and usurers are allowed to stand or sit up respectfully, but the blasphemers were forced to lay still and flat on the sand. This made their punishment the worst of this ring and exhibits Dante's belief that violence against God is the worst type of violence.
Throughout the book, Dante uses many rhetorical devices to emphasize his beliefs about hell. There are many allusions and symbols, as mentioned in the ring they fell under. There is irony in each punishment as well. The river of blood is ironic because the people here spent so much time spilling others' blood, they now must sit in this blood for eternity. What they once did without much thought is now their perpetual punishment. Similarly, in the forest of mutilated trees, the people here tried to free themselves from their bodies, and now they are trapped inside them and cannot move. Dante also includes an apostrophe, saying, "O blind covetousness, insensate wrath, which in this brief life goad us on, and then, in the eternal, step on us in such misery." He also includes one paradox, saying, "Eyes were burned of tears." Dante's version of hell can also be extended to serve as a microcosm for society, since violent and suicidal crimes are so prominent in today's society. Dante may have included this relevance to today's culture as a form of warning against violent crimes.